As it is 7 o'clock, we are officially live.
All right. I would like to call to order the January 11th, 2021 meeting of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission. And we'll do a roll call. So Commissioner Cantola.
Here.
Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Drainville.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson.
Here.
We have an SCC staff there. Commissioner Jackson. Absent. And Commissioner Gerding. So he's also absent. I also see that also present is our city council person. Oh, there's Commissioner Gerding. We're just doing the roll call. Commissioner Gerding is present.
Present.
Yes, and we do have the city council. Is this a new assignment for you as our liaison?
Hey, Keith and members of the EMC. Yes, I have the pleasure of being the EMC liaison for 2021 and 2022. And so I'm looking forward to working with you all on your agendas for the year ahead. So if anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, please feel free to just shoot me a message anytime.
Great. Well, welcome. Commissioner Kevin Zabel is also with us. And that's great. So we'll start with next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll start with, I'll lead you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the November 16th, 2020 meeting of our commission. And do any of the commissioners have any changes that they would like to make in the draft of the meeting minutes? Hearing none, I would look for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 16th, 2020 as written.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Gerding, seconded by Commissioner Drainville to approve the meeting minutes as written. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. So this is that time of the year, our first meeting when we get to select a chair and a vice chair for the coming year. And with that, you received a copy of the procedure for choosing, electing a chair and vice chair. And so the first thing is to nominate candidates for the chair and vice chair position. So I will open nominations. The nominations do not need to be seconded. So I would open the floor for nominations for the position of chair and the position of vice chair.
I nominate Keith Miller for chair.
I nominate Noah Girding for vice chair.
Do we have any other nominations for chair or vice chair? And you can also self-nominate. That is allowed. Well, hearing no other nominations, we'll close the floor for nominations. Do I hear, so I would like to hear a motion to close the floor for nominations for the position of chair and vice chair.
So moved.
And that requires a second.
I second.
Thank you. And so we have now since we need to, this would have been difficult had we had more than one nomination doing the balloting. So since we do not, we can do this by vote, voice vote. So all in favor of Commissioner Miller for position of chair, say aye.
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 And all those in favor of Commissioner Girding for the position of vice chair, say aye.
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 Okay. I guess really we need at this point a motion to elect Commissioner Miller to the position of chair.
So moved.
And that requires,
Second.
thank you. And also a motion to elect Commissioner Girding as the vice chair.
So moved.
And a second.
Second, whichever one of us didn't get to move.
Thank you. All right. So I think that actually does it. So we have a new vice chair this year, Mr. Commissioner Girding. Congratulations. And it looks like I will continue as chair. All right. On our agenda this evening, the main item, we have been discussing communications strategy and a communications plan for our environmental communications. And we have the pleasure of having Alyssa MacLeod here from the City of Oakdale Communications. She's a communications specialist with the City of Oakdale. And she is going to talk to us about a communications plan and strategy for this year. And we're really excited about you being here. And really, this is a difficult time for communications and not being able to hold meetings, public meetings. And so this is a really important part of our work this year. And so pleasure to have you with us. And so I think I'll just turn it over to you to talk about that. You and Shannon, if you have anything you would like to say at this point too.
Sure. Well, thank you, Commissioner Miller. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you about communications as well. It's what I do. It's what I love to do. So when Shannon said that you were interested in putting together more of a formal communications strategy and plan for this year, I was really excited to help out with that. So yeah, thank you for having me here. So we've been working, Shannon and I have been working together. She sent me a copy of your 2021 work plan. We've discussed some other things, and I took that information and put it together into a plan and an editorial calendar for the year. I do have a copy of that Shannon will be able to share with you after the meeting, but I will go ahead and share my screen so we can take a look at that and talk through it. All right, does everyone see the communications plan up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. It's always hard to tell when you're doing these. All right, so starting out at the top, I'll just walk through this plan step by step, and then at the end I can take any questions and we can discuss anything, any questions or thoughts that you have. So first of all, I outlined the objectives. I basically put what the role of the Environmental Commission is and the topics, the primary topics that your commission works on. And a large part of fulfilling this mission to advise on the matters pertaining to these environmental issues, like you said, Commissioner Miller, communications is key. And the way that I see it is the information that you will be putting out in regarding these topics they'll fulfill one of the following objectives: raising awareness, informing, and promoting. We'll be doing a variety of different content, whether it be promoting different events and programs and services that the city offers. We'll be raising awareness through public service announcements, and then we'll be informing on different environmental information, tips, reminders, all of those kind of things, which you'll see fleshed out a little more in detail on the following page after we get through this first one. In your outreach, you're going to be reaching multiple audiences, but the way that I see it is that, and from what Shannon and I have discussed, your two key audiences are really going to be Oakdale residents and then Oakdale businesses. Each of those audiences will be communicating with a little differently, both in message and in channels, depending upon what the topic is and how best we can reach each of those key audiences. And then the channels that we'll be using are the city channels. So that includes City of Oakdale social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Nextdoor. We also have the city newsletter, which goes out 3 times a year. It's called the Oakdale Update. We're actually getting ready to send the spring one out here soon. We have the city website, of course, any type of printed collateral, which includes flyers, signage, brochures, postcards, mailings. We have our electronic message boards. We've got one up front in front of City Hall, and then we have some lobby electronic messaging boards as well in City Hall and the Rec Discovery Center. We have the lobbies where we can display information, and direct mail at times we use, and also cross promotion with partner organizations. A good example of this is with the Oakdale Area Chamber of Commerce. That's a great way to get our messaging out, particularly those messages targeted at businesses. We have other partners in the community as well where we can do some of that cross promotion. So those are the primary channels we'll be using to communicate the information that we have outlined here. And then the next piece, I took the information that Shannon had provided me with on your 2021 work plan and listed the priorities that I saw in that work plan that you'll be wanting to communicate more information about. And then on the next side, or right next to that, are the resources that we'll be using. These might be entities that on social we might share some of their information, reference these different organizations and resources. It's not an exhaustive list, as if you look through here and you have other resources that you'd like to add to the list, please send them my way or to Shannon and we can get those added. This is just a starting point. And then as we move to the next page, this is the part that I think you're going to be really interested in. This is our 2021 editorial calendar. And what this is going to do and accomplish is really help just keep the lines of communication open between the Environmental Management Commission and communications, because that will help us get the message out. So on this calendar, you'll see it broken out by month. For each month, we assigned a different topic that aligns with those priorities that were outlined on the first page and that are also part of your work plan. Under each, excuse me?
Are we supposed to be seeing the calendar now?
Are you not seeing the calendar?
No, it didn't change from that first page.
Well, let me see what I can do here. Let me try something. Okay, let me try this again. Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so the editorial calendar on the left-hand side, you see it broken out by month. Each month there is an assigned theme for that month. On the left-hand side in italics are different days of the month or different months that are nationally recognized for certain themes that are related to the content that and the topics that you want to communicate more about. The ones highlighted in green are their city events or community events that we will be promoting, but aligned with some of your objectives as well. On the right column are just a bullet point list of different content that will be promoting during that month that fits in with the theme. It's not, that also is not an exhaustive list, and this gives you more of a high level of what will be going out that month. But as we go, as you have a chance to look through this afterward and this gets mailed out, what I'm looking for feedback on is to make sure that these, that I'm not missing anything that you feel is a priority to communicate. I tried to capture the priorities based on the information that I was provided with, but I would be happy to hear your feedback. And then if you have any specific ideas for things that you'd like communicated, we can add them into this editorial calendar as well. Then my goal with this, this gives you an idea of what is going to be communicated throughout the year. And then as a follow-up every month or for every meeting that you have, I'll provide Shannon with a reporting document, which will itemize all of the communications that went out and provide some metrics on that too, in terms of response and, just especially with social media, some social media metrics tied to it on how they performed, any shares, comments, that kind of stuff, so you can see the feedback. But each month you'll get a detailed list of all the communications that went out on what channels, what they looked like from a creative standpoint, the messaging that went out, just to report back so you see how the community is responding as well. So that is it in a nutshell. I know I walked through it pretty quickly, but I'm happy to take any questions or if you have any comments at this point.
I think this looks great, and I like the approach that you're taking. And with this looks great. It's a little difficult on my laptop here to see
Right.
details of the calendar, but I guess I would, there we go.
Does that help? Can you see it better now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think probably, unless there's things that jump out, commissioners, feel free to jump in and provide some comments on this. But I think if we all go through this in detail, things may come to mind as we sit with it and can help add to this. I think you know, some of the things that are already on here, you know, look good around energy efficiency. I think, you know, maybe look at some other communications that we could have next month, perhaps, regarding salt use or weatherization specifically. If we have something there, we can get that to you to, you know, for communications. And I do like the part of the plan, well, that we can use other communications that you're already doing, like with Oakdale businesses, and include messaging to Oakdale businesses. I think that's one of the gaps we have right now is communication with commercial businesses in the city. And it would be great to get this information out and to establish more of a relationship with businesses regarding things like, you know, energy audits and that sort of thing, water use, different topics, you know, around energy efficiency, I guess, in particular. We've also talked about water use in the past too. And so I think that's good. I like that part because, you know, I was looking for some vehicle that we can, you know, use for better communications with business people. Yeah, I would also ask all the commissioners to look at that resource list and we can continue to grow that. That'll be helpful.
Yes, and then like I had mentioned, in terms of feedback that I'm looking for, you know, nothing too granular or real detailed. I really want you to focus on these themes for the month to make sure that they really are targeting the areas that you want to focus on this year. And again, I remind you, I pulled it from the 2021 work plan. So they should be, they're in alignment with the things you have noted there, but I just want to make sure if you have certain priorities that I'm aware of them, or if there's anything on here that I missed in terms of larger themes and different topics that you want to touch on, even within those themes. So example, if under recycling, there is a specific program or resource that you feel we need to communicate better, anything like that, that's the kind of feedback that I'm looking for.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any other comments as you look at this or anything that came up during Alyssa's presentation?
Just a quick acknowledgement, Alyssa and Shannon and your team. I know that it takes a lot of work to put something like this together, and I want to give space and also acknowledge that the EMC editorial calendar might be one of 27,000 for you, Alyssa. So I think it's fantastic that, you know, we were given the opportunity just to get in front of this and really come alongside and support you. And I want to say that it's not often that you see some intentionality, like planning a year out, understanding that maybe 10% of the time when there's a topic of interest, like Silas plugging in something to my USB drive, might come up to where we actually need to like pivot maybe a little bit. And so I would hope that in addition to the intentionality that you've given to this, that you're also building in like breathing room for stuff that might just come up. Got it. Awesome. Stuff that might just come up in the moment where you need to pivot. So
absolutely. No, that's
okay.
Very good. That's a very good point, Commissioner Girding. I appreciate you bringing that up. The way that this is intended to use, it really guides me. You know, you mentioned with a bunch of different planning calendars and strategies, it is kind of each, we go through this departmentally, and I combine this all into the city's overarching communications program that we put together. So what this does is help me get on the same page with your commission and your priorities so that this guides my communications on a month-by-month basis. So the way that I work with the city communications is each month, you kind of have the year planned out, but yes, it's more of a loose plan. There will always be things that come up that's timely and that changes, especially in this time period of COVID, where every day is different than the next. We absolutely have flexibility in there, and a lot of times too, and I don't know that it will play so much off of this calendar, but there are times, when things come up that are more of a sensitive nature. So some of the things that had been originally planned will be put on hold for a little bit later, but regardless, no, there is flexibility with this plan. This is just kind of the general guidance as we're doing our monthly holistic city communications. These will be plugged into that mix so they're not missed. And then, yes, if anything comes up that's more of a time sensitive nature, or, good example that I see is events. We haven't done a lot of event planning future forward because of COVID. We don't know what the situation is. I anticipate that there will be things that are coming up throughout the year, and definitely we can plug those in where they fit and where they make sense. So, and with that, because we are starting this process, just opening up the lines of communication, anything that comes up, you could just run it through Shannon. She'll make sure to get it to me. But we can take that as the time comes. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because yes, we do have flexibility with this calendar, but this will guide the majority of it. So
Great. Thank you very much for all this. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Can you scroll up on this so we can see a little bit of?
Sure. Yeah, we can go through the topics. There were a couple that were used again, just that, ones that I thought were a little bit more relevant, and also have a lot that fall underneath that theme. So we have energy efficiency for this month, winter environmental topics for February. And a lot of these too, I paused for a minute. So as I mentioned, these items in italics here are nationally recognized days and months of the year. So a lot of the themes tie into those, like Earth Day on April 22nd. We're talking about environmental stewardship that month. There's another one further down that's talking about, it's another environmental day. So we've got that topic again. But again, I'll walk through these. Or March is a good example. Global Recycling Day is on March 18th. So we're talking about recycling for our theme in March. But again, we've got energy efficiency in January, winter environmental topics in February, recycling for March, environmental stewardship for April, bicycling and transportation for May, tied in with Bike to Work Day and National Bike to Work Week and National Bike Month. We've got active lifestyles in June, which I feel can filter into a lot of the different areas that you are trying to get the word out more about. One is promoting city parks and trails, adopt a park. We've got another opportunity to kind of cross promote with other departments with our Oakdale Community Walk from the rec programming. July, we've got sustainability. August, water conservation. September, fall environment topics. That's a really important one that we see every year, just with leaves and yard waste and keeping it out of the drains. And then October, we've got renewable energy. November, recycling again, as we have America Recycles Day on November 15th. And then December, I put down going green for the holidays. There are a lot of topics, I think, around holiday related things where we can talk about energy efficiency and recycling. So that will cover a variety of different things under one bucket. So that's what I came up with. If you have, as a commission, decide on any given month you'd like to focus on a different theme, by all means, let me or Shannon know and we can get that adjusted.
I really like the work you've done. I'm thinking when we get our printed, or when we get our calendars and we can print them out, it would be a good idea to look at them at the beginning or sometime during each commission meeting to kind of remind us of what we might want to include in some kind of emphasis that month.
That's a great idea, Commissioner Wilson. And I think just from this meeting, later on, we could talk about February and if there are things coming up that we want to add to that calendar. And maybe at the end of every meeting, every month, we could look at the month ahead or months ahead if we know of something coming up. Such as if we know that like Solar Twin Cities is going to be active again in 2021, that we could slide that into the calendar. And if we hear about that. So yeah, I think that would be good to be a ongoing agenda item on our monthly agenda to talk about the calendar and events coming up. And if we want to be adding things in or changing things. So do we have any other comments or feedback for Alyssa this evening? Well, Alyssa, I want to thank you for developing this with Shannon. Thank you both for working on this, and we really appreciate it. I think this, as I said earlier, is critical this year with COVID, and this is we don't have some of our normal channels of communication, and this actually is something that is going to benefit us no matter what, COVID or not, to have a communications plan for the year and to develop better communication channels with, a lot of our work has been with city operations and really the residents and commercial businesses. While we have communicated and done things with them, they need to be more of a focus for us. So the more we can communicate with them and get news out on things and events and all of that, it's really going to be helpful moving forward. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you again for having me tonight. And if there's no other comments or questions, I will sign off, but I'll make sure to get this over to Shannon so she can send it off to you right away to take a look at and provide any feedback.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Alyssa, if you want to make me the host again, that would be great.
I will. Let's see here.
Thank you.
There you go. You should be set.
Sounds good. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
No, thank you again. Before we go on to the next item, one thing I was thinking about as I read through the meeting minutes is it would be helpful for me, and I think our commission moving forward, that as we cover a topic that we, at the end of discussion on that topic, that we highlight the action items from that topic. And so I would just like to highlight that the action items going forward is that the commissioners will review the resource list in the draft communications plan, and also review the calendar and provide feedback on it. And so I would ask those to be action items included in the meeting minutes for our commission. All right. And is there anything else before we move on? Are there other action items from this that any of the commissioners would like to see?
I'll be sure to touch base with Alyssa and see if she has any edits to the document that she just showed us before sending it off. If she does, then I'll send out the updated document to you all as soon as possible.
Okay, excellent. I guess that would be the other action item.
Yep.
For you to forward the updated or the finalized draft from Alyssa. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So the next item on our agenda is the MPCA electric vehicle, the level 2 charging station grant update. And so Shannon, I think I'll turn it over to you to provide an update on that.
Yeah. So at our November meeting, I think it was Bonnie, you had called out the fact that the MPCA does have a grant available at the moment for level 2 charging stations. It's part of the VW settlement. And I did look into this grant a little bit, went to a session where they shared a little bit of information about the grant, some details that were pertinent to all individuals who are going to be applying. And here's what I found out. It's a pretty small grant, first of all. It's about $170,000. It's believed that about 22 charging stations are going to come out of that grant, and each individual municipality is required to apply for at least 2 charging stations. So we're looking at about, at the most, 11 individuals who are going to be receiving grant money from this particular grant. The other thing is that it's very comprehensive. So the idea is that any individual who's applying for the grant will be providing a variety of things, including a map of charging station locations. That has to include ADA compliant spaces, bollard placement, electric box and transformer box placement, signage. It's going to include an outline of the equipment required for the charging stations. The municipality is required to explain what make, model, and charging station capacity that they'll have, service requirements, payment options, and then installation. If there's a budget for concrete, asphalt, electrical conduit, transformer upgrades, you have to describe what electrician you're going to have install these electric vehicle charging stations. So the point being that it's a very, very, very comprehensive grant. My feeling is that we are not quite at the stage where we know, where we would want to even put our charging stations, much less having kind of the buy-in from the city council as a whole on installing these charging stations throughout Oakdale. The other requirement for this grant is that you have to have matching funds available in order to be considered competitive. So that being said, I, again, personally don't believe that we are in a place where we can apply for this particular grant. However, in their FAQ document, they do mention that more grant funds will be available later on in phase 2 of this particular phase of the settlement. Now, I need to understand whether that means more grant funds available in 2021 or more grant funds available from now and 2023. That'll be on me to look up that information. But that tells me that eventually there will be another cycle where this grant becomes in play again. And once that cycle hits, I do believe that we will be ready to be able to provide all of the information that they need in order to be competitive for the grant money. So that's all the information I have on this grant. If you guys have any more questions for me, any other comments, please let me know. I want to make sure that we're doing this the right way so that everyone is on board when we do install charging stations in the future.
Yeah, I do understand, and that we're probably not at a stage to, have all that information for charging stations, and we need to do some further work on that, identify areas, and ideally area would be at Helmo Station planned to be put in, because there would be people parking there during the day, driving in from somewhere and needing a charge, perhaps, either a fast charge before going home or something. So we, and just need to look at, besides that, what other areas may be needed.
Yeah, and so I think I've kind of mentioned before that I'm in the process of working on phase 2 of this electric vehicle study. Jen did a great job of doing a first pass in her study that she presented back in 2019 that just gave a general overview of how electric vehicles, encouraging them, might be addressing some of the plans and goals that Oakdale has around environmental resiliency in the comp plan, the 2040 comp plan. So she did a really good job of kind of doing that overview. And then my job now is to come in and say, okay, if we know that this is one avenue to address environmental resiliency, how do we make sure that we're putting these charging stations in the best possible location so that we're reducing barriers to electric vehicles in general? So I'm kind of doing my due diligence to try and find a lot of data, as much data as possible, to figure out where the best location for these charging stations will be. And part of that is asking critical questions about current infrastructure versus where we might already be kind of developing things like Helmo Station that would dovetail really nicely into laying conduit for future charging stations.
Right.
So all of that is something that I'm kind of in the process of working on, and I'm hoping to present something to the EMC at least in the next month or two.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah. I think that timing would be great because then we can plan. I know that in the current calendar, I did notice that the Ride and Drive events planned later in the year, but you know, we might want to be doing some upfront work on identifying, you know, the use of electric vehicles currently in the city and that type of thing. So,
And just,
yeah, if you can come back with in a month or two some more information on this, I think we're, you know, recognizing that the work that we've done so far on the electric vehicles and looking at that was kind of preliminary work, understanding, and now we need to take a deeper dive into that.
and have we sought the information? So if we need like Kevin's group and the full city commissioners to approve it, can we preemptively ask them like what would basically start or stop the project so that we're not creating a bunch of work and moving in a direction that would be a no-go to begin with?
Great question, Commissioner Drainville. And I think that would be something that we will need to discuss with them in our annual meeting next month. And so let's make a note here that we have some further information, get some further information, feedback from the city council and the mayor on what, you know, discuss this issue around electric vehicles and our promotion of electric vehicles and charging stations. And, you know, we won't have a detailed proposal, but going forth with charging stations and realizing that if we do go for a grant, that the city would have to have a matching amount to whatever grant money that we receive. So, yeah, I think to make sure that they're on board with you know, moving forward with the promotion of electric vehicles and going after a grant for charging stations in the future. So I made a note that we'll make sure that that's on our topics to talk to the city council about. All right. And so are there any other topics that any of the commissioners would like to bring forward at this time? I guess following up on our discussion at our last meeting in November, there was a question about promoting the Excel wind sourcing and that this could occur at a utility bill clinic. And I know, that there was something about this in the calendar, the draft calendar that we saw. I'm just wondering, those utility bill clinics, I think we have communicated that those are available virtually through the Citizens Utility Board, but that would be a topic probably we should add to that calendar and have an action item around making sure that we have a communications go out to residents and about these utility bill clinics, and also mentioning the Excel wind sourcing program. I think it is called WindSource, isn't it? Program.
Noted.
Okay. All right. I think there will probably be other things that commissioners will notice from our work plan, and I'll take a look at that too, how our draft work plan that we reviewed in November and what is on the calendar currently. And please feel free to, think creatively about what we can do. And I'm sure you all have resources out there within the city or with other agencies, organizations that you may know things about events that we could piggyback on, partner with our communications. And I think it's really important this year that we have good communications with the residents and with businesses to really move our objectives forward for the city in each of the areas that we've noted in the plan. So I think we've got now a good, excellent template. The calendar started and just need to add on to that and be more specific on our communications going out. All right, great. So I will pause just if there are other items that you'd like to bring forward at this time. Well, hearing none, I guess the other thing, our next meeting is February 8th, so early in the month. And traditionally, we haven't had our meeting with the city council until later in February. So we may be asked to have 2 meetings in February, one meeting with the city council and then our meeting earlier. But I think given that we will have this calendar to review at our next meeting and add more specifics, we'll probably have more details then on our communications plan to talk to the city council about. So I don't think that timing would be bad. And Shannon, I know you'll keep us informed of when that date is for the annual city council work plan review.
Mm-hmm. When I hear from Bob, I will let you know.
All right, great. And I guess I would ask Councilman Zabel whether there's anything you'd like to say this evening regarding anything you've heard tonight.
Thanks, Keith. I added some comments in the chat there, encouraging you all just to take a look at that. If there are any projects that the EMC wants to focus on going forward, please consider bringing even just rough estimate costs associated with those projects to our annual meeting in February. It is hard to believe we just finished the 2021 budget and we're going to be starting 2022 already in April. So it's a never-ending vicious cycle, but we'll definitely, if there are costs associated with some of your initiatives, we're going to want to keep those in our minds, early in the budget process. So just to make sure that we get them in there. So anything you guys can do, even just, ballpark, putting placeholders in there will be helpful.
Great reminder. Councilman, I appreciate that. And we will at least be able to give some estimates of what we're talking about and any other costs that we may see coming up in this, coming year or in 2022, even give you a heads up on that since you're starting 2022 budget already. So great reminder on that, Kevin. All right. I think we're done for this evening. And, we have our actions for our meeting in February to come up. We'll come back and discuss that plan, the communications plan in more detail and add to that. And I think it would also be good just to review as you go through the work plan or through the calendar to review our work plan, and that will also be prep for the meeting with the city council. So, the more specifics that we can get and actions to take to on our work plan that we can add to the communications plan, that would be helpful. So good. So if there are no other comments from anyone, I would look for a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor of adjournment of the January 11th, 2021 meeting of the Oakdale Environmental Management Commission, say aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Thank you all.